Welcome to Wealth Beyond the White Coat, a show where we dive deep into the world of financial freedom for dentists and medical professionals. I'm your host, Darren Flesher, a dentist with a passion for uncovering the strategies that lead to a prosperous life beyond the office. Every episode will explore the avenues of alternative investing, tax mitigation, and secrets to build wealth that the textbooks don't teach you. Whether you're looking to enhance your financial literacy, discover new investment opportunities, or simply find a better way to manage your money, this is the place where your financial health is the core of our conversations. Welcome to Wealth Beyond the White Coat, where your journey to financial clarity and freedom begins. All right, welcome back. In this special episode, we bring you a candid behind-the-scenes conversation between all of us co-hosts that took place post-podcast recording. You'll get a unique glimpse into our thoughts on navigating the complexities of financial management for dentists and medical professionals, the importance of leveraging experience in investment decisions, and the pitfalls of overconfidence and analysis paralysis. In this discussion, we'll explore the intricacies of building a successful dental practice, the challenges faced by smart professionals outside of their expertise, and the parallels between running a dental practice and managing investments. I thought it was an enlightening dialogue, so I hope you do too. It underscores the value of trust, experience, and strategic thinking in both fields, investing and dentistry. So enjoy this insightful and unfiltered conversation here on Wealth Beyond the White Coat.
So it starts, that dialogue comes out because that's experience. That's doing it on our side for so long. When you ask a guy that's been doing it for more than 2 decades the right question, like it opens question after question. And it's just, this is the way that somebody that's trained in this space thinks. Just like your background in dental, you ask one question, they answer it, and then you think, okay, but this and this and this. And I'm like, the person without that training would never understand.
No, I totally agree. So I appreciate you doing all that.
Yeah, all good, man. I think this is, and these are things we know, and these are things that people think they know, or these are people think they wrote an investing book for dummies and think that now that they know it because they're otherwise a really intelligent, very educated, and successful person. And you can't replicate 20 years of experience in deals and seeing markets like this before and knowing what it happened before, how to work out of it again. You just can't do that. You can't know those things. And it's hubris to think that you can. And unfortunately, we know too many examples of where investors have lost money because somebody fed into their ego, told them they're really smart. You can figure this out on your own and you're going to be fine. And you're not going to be. Like I would never try to extract my own tooth. I know there are people that do that or do oral surgery on myself. And I feel like that's what a lot of medical professionals are as guilty as anybody because they're smart. They are smart people and they are educated and they have made money. But with that comes blind spots and hubris to things that they don't know as well. And unfortunately causes them to make mistakes. And sometimes I can't tell you how many smart entrepreneurs I've seen lose money opening bars and restaurants. They're so thankful if they just lose a little bit of money when they get out of that whole endeavor. So I hate to see when a medical professional that is certainly I tell people all the time, I think 2 of the most important things in our life are our health and our wealth because I believe they're directly correlated, right? Like when your health goes bad, it negatively impacts your wealth because you got to spend money to fix it, right? And when your wealth goes bad, it negatively impacts your health because of the stress caused from the making of the decisions, the losing of the money, and all the things that come with it. So I hate when somebody that's trained so well in fixing one part of our life causes themselves to have health issues, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, whatever, because of making bad financial choices. Like it's terrible to see that have to happen.
And we've seen that on the other end of the spectrum with some conversations too, where people, because they're really smart in what they do, they ask almost too many questions. They feel like they have to understand the entirety of everything instead of learning to know the jockey, learning to know a little bit about what they're looking at, but then trusting that the people that they're partnering with are the right people to actually execute that. We've seen them kind of analysis paralysis on all that stuff too.
Yeah, for sure. That would be like the equivalent of me going into a dental practice and needing some substantial work. And then I'm like, okay, but what kind of floss are you going to use? And what scalpel is that? What's the model? I'm going to Google up that model number of that scalpel to make sure that and how did you sterilize all that equipment? I want to Google that. I want to learn the type of sterilization machine to do that. That's just crazy, right? To think Like, you trust that the dentist picked all the right things to do the right work in my mouth to help me get the outcome. So, like, second guessing every little utensil that the person uses along the way sounds insane when I describe it that way. But yet
Yeah.
they look at what we're doing and they try to pick it apart that way, thinking they're smart enough to understand, like, and they just don't, and they just don't.
Now that you framed it that way and spun it into the dental analogy, I can definitely understand how that would be frustrating on your end if you're having those conversations, because I know how I feel when somebody comes in and wants to know materials and all the process, where it's like, hey, I know what I'm doing here. Just, you came here for a reason. You read my Google reviews or whatever. Like, whoever referred you here sent you here because they had a good experience. Obviously, ask some questions. We don't expect you to just walk in the door and say yes to everything, but there's got to be a kind of a line here where you stop asking all the questions.
Sure. How many decisions go to how many decisions does it take, thoughtful decisions, to put together a dental practice, right? The chairs you buy, the tools you use, the x-ray equipment, the training of the staff that you hire, how much additional training you put into each person to make sure they know how to use the tools and equipment, which are different from other places and facilities. Like, who really wants to know all that mind-numbing amount of information when you just need your mouth worked on, right? You're like, you have to
Right.
trust the process to some extent, but that comes back to that whole trust but verify thing that we do it. And we don't run background checks on dentists before we sit down in the chair. I don't go and look up the dental license of somebody to know if they're licensed at all. And, oh, do I agree with the dental school that they even went to in the first place? Was it a reputable dental school or not? Did I see a copy of their exam? Like, how much do you trust in that? And today in the dental space, we trust a review. They've got 94 people in the past 6 months that gave them 4 out of
So
5 stars.
2 weeks ago, Matt and I were in Atlanta, and he just learned for the first time, I knew this, that if you can't get into medical school, like a physician, not dental school, in the US, they have medical schools in the Bahamas or the Caribbean, I think it is, not the Bahamas, what's called Ross University, if you can't get into a US-based medical school. Now there people think, "Oh, it's cheaper down there." No, it's not cheaper. It's actually more expensive because you couldn't get into medical school. I know numerous doctors who went to that place in the Caribbean. And
Mm.
Matt's, "Are you kidding me?" And so,
That's not
can
what I
I
actually said.
well,
I
no, you were
said,
just like,
"Is
"Can I
the
look it
training"
up?"
I said, "Is the training on par with what they get here?" Because if it is, and they just have to go through a different process to get it, then I'm like, I'm okay with it. Somebody got trained in another place. But instantly the reaction of the person that knew everything about this was like, no, it's like clown school.
Yeah.
It's not like medical school.
And
Yeah.
Matt said, "Can I look up my doctors?" And he's like, "Yeah, just do it right here." And so it's like, "Oh my gosh." And but like people don't know that. I know physicians who went to that school.
Hey, I just want to interrupt real quick and say thanks for listening to the podcast. If you didn't know, we have an associated Facebook group also called Wealth Beyond the White Coat. Over there, you can ask your questions, get feedback from group members, and have a close community of medical professionals who are likely interested in the same things as you. Whether it's alternative investing, tax mitigation, ways to keep more of your money, or even protect your assets, we're going to discuss those things in the group. Additionally, we have a private investors club called Legacy Point. As a member, you'll get exclusive discounts to preferred vendors, and you'll get access to private investments that you'll find nowhere else. Whether it's hotels, apartments, oil and gas, equipment rental, you name it, we'll be discussing those details and offering those investments to members only inside Legacy Point Group. If you want to learn more about that, please contact me or simply email info, I-N-F-O, at legacypointgroup.com or go to the website legacypointgroup.com. And Wealth Beyond the White Coat podcast listeners get an exclusive discount if you use the code WealthBeyond. That's all caps, all together, WealthBeyond at checkout. I'd love to have you in the group, and I'd love to see you making more passive income as you move towards financial freedom, whether it's freedom to retire early, spend more time with your family, go on more vacations, or just do more of what you love while you're in the operatory. I'd love to see you doing that as part of Legacy Point. So here's to improving your financial health. Yeah, it's the same with law and anything else. There's a lot of lawyers that there's a private university here in Oklahoma City. That's your backup. Like, I couldn't get in anywhere else, and now I pay 3 times the cost because I'm still going to get the degree at the end of all this, but nobody's going to ask any questions when ultimately down the line. But Yeah, it's definitely interesting, all those backup plans and the cost you pay for it, then you end up with the same degree and the same ability to practice, and hopefully you outperform your degree at that point, but yeah, it's definitely interesting.
It's funny, we were having a conversation about law school pass rates. I was talking to somebody that was going through the University of Miami Law School. At the end, you have to pass the bar exam to practice. And some people are just naturally good test takers. Other people, because there's prep exams for all that stuff today, and other people aren't. Some of the law schools, like you said, that have that fallback plan where it's harder. If you can't get in the other ones, you get in these backup plans. Some of their pass rates are just atrocious on some of those schools. So yeah, you might do that, and that might give you a path where before you never had a path. But at some of the big law schools, you're talking about 75% pass the bar. At some of those other schools, it's a 25% bar pass rate. So look, there's late bloomers and everything. You can even connect that to like the NFL, right? There's guys that come out of high school 5-star recruits and have a great college career and then are first round draft picks. But there's also guys that were walk-ons in college that worked their way up and are just late bloomers and needed that opportunity. So I think it's awesome that there is that opportunity and that pathway to excel when it just wasn't on your radar right away. But that may or may not work for everybody in all those scenarios. And if I can do it in a best in class way, I think I prefer to do it that way.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and for my personal story is it took me 3 tries to get into dental school, so 3 years, and I just worked in between. And even in dental school, like, I wasn't the best clinically, like, that was never my focus. I had a more of a comprehensive view on the business of dentistry and, like, patient care. It was more than just how beautiful of a crown prep can I do? I was good enough, but I wasn't the top student in my class with any of that stuff, to be honest. But from an overall kind of global perspective, I felt like I had better outlook and a better perspective on what the entire operation was going to look like to run a practice, to deal with personnel, to think about all the insurance participation. You don't get taught a lot of that stuff, but you have to learn it. So I went in with that mindset of um, trying to just get through the clinical part because I knew that was as much as they focused on it in dental school, that was a very small piece of what you actually do in practice. It is
That's
nice
it.
that they eventually they let me in, and when my grades and scores and stuff were above average, but not top of the class, but eventually you get the chance to shine, like you said, being a late bloomer. It wasn't that I was a late bloomer, it's just that the perspective I had was only applicable after the fact, and getting through school was just a step in the process for me.
That's interesting. It makes me think, how early for you did you go, I can be in the dentist business if I can get a license without technically being a dentist. I could be an entrepreneur in the dental business and hire the other people that are extremely good at the technical work. When did you have that kind of epiphany, or was it always like a seed in there somewhere that kind of the more you got through it started to crystallize itself a little bit?
Financial freedom is about making the right moves at the right time. As practice owners, we often reach a point where growth stalls. Instead of maintaining at that plateau, consider cashing in now, putting that money to work for you, letting it double, triple, or even more over the course of your career, and then go pursue more of what you love to do. This is exactly what I did with my friend JW, a dental practice broker who found the perfect partner for my practice, maximized its value, and optimized the deal terms. He offers a free valuation for those considering a sale. If you want an introduction and the same red carpet treatment shown to me by my friend JW, email me at darren@legacypointgroup.com. That's DEREN at legacypointgroup.com. And I'll be happy to connect you with JW to start your journey to financial independence. I always knew that I wanted to run it as a business and not just hang a shingle and put my name on it and do it for 30, 40 years. It wasn't really a big thing when I was going through school to have like corporate involvement and kind of PE and all the things that have come to be the norm more recently. Because I'm 10 years out of school now. So that was all coming onto the scene, and some of these big DSO names and stuff were just coming up. So I never really had that high level of a view as far as running a dental business and having it be multi-location and all that kind of opportunity there. But just from a knowing that there was more to this operation than spinning a handpiece, that was always something I had a perspective on. Even before dental school, I was manager of different stores and a liquor store in my college town, and I'd run a lawn mowing business. I mean, I'd always had more of a view of just not being the technician. I had to run and manage people and think about the overhead and all the things that go into running a dental business. I just got to now apply it to something that was more lucrative. And then to your point about maybe could I have done it without the dental degree at the time, and still today, you have to have the DDS or the DMD behind your name to own the practice. But there's all these workarounds where you know, have your management company and they suck up all the profits and the practice level doesn't actually make any money. And you got all these contracts that are, you can't get out of them because that's the way the whole thing's supposed to work. I still don't have any regret that I did it, but I always thought that you had to be a dentist to actually own the business and run it. Technically, you don't. On paper, you do, but like from a technicality perspective and who actually makes the money, you don't have to have that title and that degree anymore. But yeah, I always went into it with the perspective of business ownership and entrepreneurship for sure.
Well, I think we've learned in the past few years, you don't have to be an experienced real estate professional to own a real estate syndicate, do you?
No. Yeah, we've seen plenty of that for sure.
So I hear you, but look, and I think everybody that has desire, the want, the bandwidth to want to be an entrepreneur in anything, but that's much different than being the technician that possesses the skill set of being the entrepreneur that builds the business around the technicians that have the skill set. And I don't think everybody is aware enough sometimes that those aren't exactly the same skill set sometimes. And
Sure.
sometimes it
Yeah.
dawns on them too late. Yeah. I look at things that way too, but I skew very entrepreneur. I just happen to have a good skill set underlying a monetizable skill set and the things that I know to do. And it happens to just be useful as a business when you can figure out how to build that part of it too. But man, that's fun. The framing. I don't think everybody has that framing.
No, yeah, a lot of my dental school buddies, and there's no right or wrong way to do it, but the traditional way is just go buy or build a practice and do it for 30, 40 years. And fortunately, the actual industry and what you generate with your hands can pretty much overcome any shortcomings in marketing or HR or PR or any of the things that I tried to focus on when I was doing it. You can really kind of power through a lot of those places where you're coming up short, essentially. For better or for worse, dentists can just muck through all the management of the business and still have a relatively good life, but it could be a lot more if you're willing to really acknowledge how big the job is and what the opportunity is. Hey, I just wanted to interrupt the show real quick and tell you about an exclusive member discount for Legacy Point Group members. The company is called Gelt, and they're both tax planning and tax preparation. We connected because their CEO actually comes from a family of physicians, and he understands the financial complexities that healthcare professionals face these days. Legacy Point is honored to partner with Gelt because it's our shared mission to empower successful professionals with optimal tax and financial outcomes. For your 20% discount off financial planning and tax preparation and priority access with their onboarding, become a member over at legacypointgroup.com.
That's probably why you have a whole bunch of like doctors, dentists, and other people that are really high paid in what they do run really terrible businesses because the margin in the service they provide is so massive that it overcomes the inefficiencies in the business. And then you find some woman down the street that has a cookie business or a pretzel business or something with basically no margin. And you're like, how does she make money doing that? Because she runs a
Right.
really good business, right? Because the just margin isn't in the product in the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally true. Absolutely.
Yeah, interesting.
All
So
right.
good
Thanks, guys.
stuff.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
But I think people don't need to hear the deal. They need to
No.
hear that. When they hear
Yeah.
what goes into this and it's decades of experience and the layers of complexity that goes into it, they're like, at that point, they're like, hey, there's a couple things I've been thinking about. Is there a way to do that?
Yeah.
That's why I think the deals are less important, but I certainly understand why everybody else thinks the deals are important. I was just at a conference with a whole bunch of like our top guys or whatever. And every one of the guys asked me, like, what's the deal that you put money in, everybody? What's the deal that you do? What's the deal? What's the deal? Everybody thinks with me, it's the deal because they don't understand where what we're doing comes from. It has to be that I have some deal that nobody's ever seen that's like the gold standard. And I'm like,
Mhm.
that's not, it has nothing to do with the deal. I'm the deal. My process is the deal. The way that we get into deals is the deal. That's the deal. At the end of the day, the deal is going to change. The deal is going to evolve based on the asset class, the strategy, the partner, where we are in the market cycle. But it's knowing how to get to that end result. That's the deal. right?
Yeah.
And they're so confused because they just want me to go, no, it's the one from this company and this is the strategy and this is the place. And I'm like, has nothing to do with that. That'll be different 6 months from now or 18 months from now. It's how do you get to that place that's the deal. And that's hard for people to wrap their mind around.
Yeah, totally. Thanks for listening in to Wealth Beyond the White Coat. Your time and attention mean a lot to us. If you found value in today's episode, please consider leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform and share it with your colleagues and friends. Your feedback helps us grow and reach more professionals like you striving for financial freedom. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of your financial health. Thank you for joining us on this journey to wealth beyond the white coat.